What happened to the NDP? How are they so absent in this election? I'm going to share with you an email communication that I had with the head of comms for the NDP a few months ago. I was being critical of Jagmeetsingh and what he was saying about the security report. Jagmeet was saying that it was super serious and that there was potentially traitors in our country, in our parliament. And I accused him and Justin Trudeau of fear-mongering. Pierre I couldn't accuse of anything because he couldn't read the report because he doesn't have a security clearance, and Elizabeth May was making it very clear that there was nothing to be concerned about and that there were no traitors in our country. And when the report came out and said just that, I criticized Jagmeetsingh. And I got an email of them criticizing my video. And it was a really long one. They were going into detail as to how what he said was okay and correct and right. I'm going to share with you my response. Now, I want you to note the date, January 29th. When I sent this email, the NDP were polling at about 18%. They are now at about 11%, okay? I understand where you're coming from, but my point about the third party still stands. There is less goodwill given to parties outside of the established duopoly, and the comments made lent themselves to the suggestion that there were traitors or otherwise reasons to suspect severe interference. This wasn't acted upon by the NDP. Mark Carney is about to eat your lunch on high information leftist voters who are turning away from the NDP as they don't see a direct opportunity with the party to increase the material conditions of their lives. The party has strayed too far from its worker roots, and that is eroding credibility. I am trying to speak the language of the NDP here. The issue with aligning your comments with Trudeau right now is that he's on his way out and even his own party is distancing themselves. Comparing comments to Justin's does not lend credibility, it removes credibility. One of his defenses is that he was saying the same thing that Trudeau was saying. The NDP has also painted itself into a corner with the election calls. Most NDP supporters don't support an early election, and Jagmeetsingh has consistently put himself at odds with his public declarations. This is not an indictment of his character, simply an acknowledgement that in this game of political poker, his bluffs are increasingly obvious. The NDP need to inspire. To do that, they need to identify themselves as different from what the LPC is offering. Beyond that, in places like Ontario, the ONDP is having a similar identity crisis when it comes to sticking to their worker and identity roots. The Sarah Jama situation is flipping NDP voters red out of spite, especially as the party veers to a more centrist ideology. And lo and behold, in the Ontario election just after that, the Liberals skyrocketed past the NDP in vote share up to 30%. We have a political spectrum for a reason, and the NDP operates best when that place on the spectrum is clearly defined and consistently advocated for. Politics is not cheering for your team to win. Politics is about using your voice so the government hears you clearly and pushes and advocates for policies that are in the best interest of all Canadians. And I feel as though the Ontario NDP and the federal NDP are not doing that. That's not to say Carney's doing much better. He was the first PM in like 100 years to get rid of a Minister of Labour. But we need to stand up for what we believe in. Otherwise, what's the point?